Hey everyone, my name is Billy Wink and I am the CEO of HP Auto, and today we're going to talk about the 2024 Cayenne Turbo GT. So the Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT is basically like the GT version of the Cayenne. Now admittedly, it's not developed by the GT department as you would think by the Turbo GT badge, but it is basically the fastest Cayenne they offer, and it's basically the most comparable car to a Urus Performante. The first things you're going to notice with this car is it's got a lot more aggressive body kit styling and designing on it. It's got some carbon in the roof, it's got more aggressive aero, so it's just a very high performance focused SUV by Porsche. So some of the base specs are it's a 4-liter twin turbo just like the previous engine. It has 650 horsepower and 626 foot-pounds of torque. It does 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds. It has an 8-speed Tiptronic S transmission. Top speed's 189 miles per hour, and the MSRP is $196,300. So let's start with the differences. Obviously it's an updated chassis from Porsche, but just some of the things that if you have not seen one of these up close or been in the new model Porsche, I'm just gonna point some of the obvious differences. So the hood here has a different shape. It's a little bit more edgy for a Porsche. It's got a little bit more aggressive styling here, as you can see. The front end, again, more aggressive, a little bit more boxy look to it. With the more technology they're into these vehicles now, you're gonna see the adaptive cruise controls here, the 360 cameras here. So it looks like they're starting to modify the front of these vehicles to accommodate some of the technology packages. As you come down here, you can see there's an air dam for the splitter, which is obviously for aerodynamics, as this car is extremely high performance. And over here, you've got the side ducts. There's even some fins here in the front aero to drive air over here into this duct here, again for aerodynamics on this SUV. The headlights are all new on this platform, even over the Turbo GT. This is now standard with the black LED 4-square headlight, which is really cool when you start the vehicle up. It has kind of a little startup initiation. You will also notice the wheel arches are slightly bigger, and this does have the 22s on it, which is a much more aggressive look to it versus some of the turbos coming with 20s on the previous model. So it's just a much more aggressive look and feel to it. You'll notice that the doors are pretty similar, although if you pay close attention to details, it does seem like this trim or the door edge here is slightly different from the previous generation. And then obviously, again, coming back to the wheel earlier, a little bit larger wheel, a little bit larger housing as well. A lot more noticeable changes is when you get back here to the rear bumper. So the taillight is quite a bit different. The rear bumper design is a lot more aggressive. You can see the diffuser here. So just a very aggressive look to this car. But you know, it looks like Porsche is kind of going for a little bit more aggressive. Normally their bodies are a lot more round. This thing's a little bit more square and edgy, which I really like the way it looks. It looks a little bit more modern. The spoiler is actually not adjustable in this car manually. So, you know, in a normal Cayenne coupe, you can lift the spoiler up and down. This only does it when the vehicle reaches a certain speed and activates it for aero purposes as well. Obviously, the spoiler is pretty similar to the last chassis, but it does, you know, have some slight adjustments, and then the carbon roof as well. So as we work our way to the interior, I'm gonna show you some of the differences now. One of the things I love about Porsche is it's an evolutionary design instead of a revolutionary design. So you'll notice a lot of these things are similar in shape and size, but there are differences. You'll notice the switches are similar to the last model, but they're like a matte finish. Now the door handle is a little bit different now. It's not necessarily a better or worse design. It's just, you know, a little bit more modern and sleek looking. These are a little bit more of a matte finish here. And one of the things I love about this car is the Burmester sound system in it. That's like the top of the line system for Porsche, and it has a great sound. A lot of these Turbo GTs, you'll notice they don't have the 18-way seats. They'll have the 8-way seats, which is like the bucket race seat these cars are known for. But if you have paid attention to the mark on these cars, they typically don't do as well resale with the 8-way buckets. So this example has the 18-way bucket seats, which is a great option, especially if you're looking for a car not to lose as much money on when you purchase it. It does help resale value. And another thing that's really unique to this car is the custom illuminated carbon door sills. That's a $3,000 option on this Turbo GT, and it looks really cool. So now that we're on the inside of the car, you know, one of the things that you'll immediately notice if you are up to date on Porsches is the steering wheel. So this is a 992 steering wheel essentially. So you've got your sport chrono dial here, which is a little different. It's also a little bit more aggressive to turn, so to speak, versus the sport chrono on the previous models. And you have your overboost button here in the middle, which is bright red now. When you come to the center console, well, there's quite a few changes. Some people love, some people hate. But you now have this as the shifter, resembling the 992 shifter. If you can't tell, it's literally got the same shape and everything. Me personally, maybe I'm just a dinosaur, I kind of like the shifter better, but you know, we'll see how this ages with the Porsche enthusiast. You do have a little bit different center console now. Instead of the shifter being here, you have another storage area. It does have a charging port as well as 2 USB-Cs. And then right here is where you control your climate and some of the features of the car, heated seats and whatnot. Here's another storage compartment and then the standard cup holder. So it looks like this is not necessarily changed as far as dimensions here. They just replaced this section. Now your vents are a new design here. So you can see the design on the vents are slightly different than the previous ones. We do have an updated infotainment, which is quite a bit bigger. And then you have the optional passenger display over here. So my biggest complaint with Porsches right now as a hardcore enthusiast is this. They have taken away our key. Now we have no key knob, and now we're down to a push button. Next thing you know, we're gonna have a push button or the remote start next. So I hope they go back to the knob. I'm not a big fan of this, but you know, I guess it is what it is. I guess I'm just old school. Obviously, the instrument cluster is significantly newer because it's like this floating design here. It's fully digital now. There's no analog anymore. I don't really care too much about that, honestly. It looks good. Overall, I'm fine with the new interior. The shifter, whatever, I use paddle shifters anyway, so it's not too big of a deal, but I really don't like this push button. So I'm hoping Porsche will at least give us the fixed switch again, but who knows, we'll see if they listen. Which some people may be upset about or not, just depending on how diehard Porsche they are, is, you know, there's no longer a button up here. It's touch sensitive, it has a little sound. But, you know, I don't mind it too much. Not a whole lot has changed. Obviously, we have the updated the door pull to get out of the vehicle. Still got the matte finish here. The standard buckets here, so it's a 4-seater set with the you know, quote unquote bucket seats in the rear. So there's no option for somebody to sit in the middle unless you just don't mind not having a seatbelt, of course. Digital display back here as well. You've got the 2 USB-Cs now in the charging port. Here too, with the new advanced camera system, there's now 2 cameras in the back. But other than that, the buttons are relatively familiar here if you've been inside of one of these. The rear trunk space is pretty similar to what it was before. And if you've ever wondered what was underneath the cover here, you've got, if you have Burmester, you have the subwoofer here, an amplifier here, the spare wheel, which is pretty unusual nowadays on a Porsche, but this car does have it. So this is the heart of the beast here. It's not significantly different from the last engine. In fact, it's just a little bit more horsepower, about 13 more. It's still the 4-liter twin turbo. And with the modern engines nowadays, you just pretty much have this cover here and they reveal nothing to you. But it's still worth a look if a Porsche lover and just want to see what the underside of the hood looks like. Not too much has changed, can't see much here. Another thing, which I believe is in the spirit of weight savings, is you'll feel look under here, the way the hood is cut out and how there's no insulation or anything underneath the hood here. So very interesting design update on this hood. What are the differences in the previous model, 22 and 23, and the 24 Turbo GT? So only speaking on the actual Turbo GT models, not the Cayenne platform as a whole, you're gonna see an MSRP increase of $14,150. So you're going from $182,150 to $196,300. The other thing you'll notice is a small improvement of 19 more horsepower coming from 631 to 650 horsepower. So there's a slight tweak in the tune. No more torque, of course, just horsepower only. You're gonna see a slightly higher top speed of 3 more miles per hour. The vehicle actually weighs 74 more pounds. And the last update is the suspension has a slightly different tune on it to change the way the car handles. Just a few small updates when you're comparing Turbo GT to Turbo GT. Now as a platform as a whole, there's quite a few differences in the vehicles. And in regards to the maintenance on the Cayenne Turbo GT, it's pretty much like every other Porsche. So if you've watched our videos in the past, we usually walk you through all the items and how the maintenance protocols work, but instead we're just going to give you a list right here. Another thing we normally talk about is common problems. Well, with this vehicle being a 2024, yes, I'm sure there's some bulletins and whatnot on the vehicle, but so far there's no major problems we've seen with these because they're so new. But as you know, we service these vehicles more and get more information, we will revisit this in the future and let you know what we're finding. So overall, you haven't, had a chance to look into the 24 Turbo GT and you currently own a 22 or 3, or if you've never, owned one of these vehicles and you're just trying to figure out what direction to go, what I would say is basically this, the updates on the new Cayenne platform and then the minor updates to the Turbo GT compounded together are pretty awesome. But if you're not too concerned with the updated headlights, the updated infotainment, and some of the new features on the vehicle, then you're probably okay going with a 22 or 23 model. The price difference isn't that much greater on a 24 versus a 23 or 4, but you're probably going to notice that the prices start to decrease a little bit quicker on the 22 and 3 because they're not updated as well. So I guess it just depends on kind of what your focus is. But if it was me, I really like 24s. The only downside to it is even though it's much more aggressive and has a very unique look to it, most people, if you had this part beside a Urus, would still think the Urus is a much faster car, but in reality, this is the king of the SUVs right now. I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and if you have any questions, comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.